Hello, this is Ian Mashinsky. I'm a Product Marketing Manager for Google Analytics. This is a webinar on getting started with Google Analytics. As we're speaking, you may hear us shorten Google Analytics down to just GA, which is the common term for it. Just want to give folks a heads up on that. We hope you'll find this webinar useful for understanding the basics of how to use GA to measure your business and find insights that will help improve your online performance. If you're looking for more advanced education on topics like marketing attribution or multi-channel marketing, be sure to check out our upcoming webinar on the building blocks of digital attribution. That will be held tomorrow morning. And if you have any questions during this time, please drop them in the box. We'll be addressing them at the end of the webinar. As well as want to let you know that we have a couple social media channels in terms of G+. You can follow us and ask questions after the webinar, as well as on Twitter. And our hashtag for this webinar is #GAWebinar. So with that, our presenter today is Justin Catroni. He is our Google Analytics advocate. He has been an analytics consultant, author, and blogger for over 8 years. Justin?
Thanks, Ian. Hey, everybody. It's great to be with you today. I'm really excited about the webinar and talking about getting started with analytics. And I find in talking to a lot of people that analytics can sometimes be very overwhelming. And so we wanted to put together a little bit of a talk here that would help you understand what you need to do from a configuration standpoint and from an analysis standpoint to start to leverage some of the great data that you can collect with Google Analytics. So looking over a brief agenda for today, we're going to start not with Google Analytics, but talking a little bit about your business and the business objectives that you might have. It's really important to identify those so that you can get Google Analytics configured and aligned with your business. Then we'll talk about how to transfer those business objectives into a feature we call goals. Then we'll move on to making sure that you're tracking Google AdWords and you can identify the data within your analytics account that's coming from your AdWords traffic. Then we'll move on to tracking other types of marketing campaigns so that you can identify email marketing, display ads, all of those different traffic sources and measure their effectiveness. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to actually do some analysis. We're going to look at some reports. We're going to talk about the data that you're seeing, talk about the metrics, what it means, and how to actually analyze some of the data that you're getting. And as Ian mentioned, please feel free to type in any questions you may have into the Q&A box, and we're going to organize these and we'll field these at the end of the webinar. So let's get started by talking about your business. And I think a lot of people kind of jump into analytics and they forget to actually think about their business and what they're trying to do. Google Analytics and all analytics tools really are a reflection of what your business does. They measure what you're trying to do online. And if the tool isn't aligned with your business objectives, then you're not going to get a lot of actionable data. Sure, you're going to get a ton of numbers, but you're not going to get anything that can really help you gauge the success of your marketing campaigns. And so what we want to do is you want to sit down and you want to think about, what am I trying to do with my website? What is my business objective? And when you do that and you think about maybe what you're doing or what other websites are doing, you'll kind of figure out that there's not a lot of things that websites do, right? There's really 5 main objectives that you could have from a website. And so here in this slide, we've got some business objectives on the left, and we have the outcomes or the goals that are representative of those objectives. So a real common example is an e-commerce website, right? And the objective of an e-commerce website is to sell a product. And so, for an e-commerce business, you're going to want to use Google Analytics to measure how many products am I selling? What is the revenue from products? Another very common type of business objective for a website is to generate a lead. You might be selling a product that's very expensive and people might not transact online, but you might have a website that explains your services, the product, and how people can get it. They might then submit a lead form in order to contact you and ultimately transact later. So measuring the number of leads that you're getting from your website is really, really important. Another common model, content publishers, people that have websites with lots of articles, right? You might write about different operating systems or mobile phones or whatever, and you might sell advertising space on your website. So you would probably want to measure how much time people spend on your website or how many pages they look at. Right? Again, you're identifying the key objective of that website based on the business model. Websites also provide support. There are some websites that are strictly dedicated to supporting their customers. This might be technical information about the products. It might be forums, but support's another reason why websites exist. And finally, branding. There are websites that exist to help promote your brand identity, help people get to know your business before you're actually selling a product or a service. So these are kind of the key objectives, and what we want to do is map these objectives to something we call goals in Google Analytics. And some websites do one of these things. Some websites might do multiple things, right? If you're e-commerce, you might not only sell a product, but you might also have support information out there. The key is that you identify what is the business objective that you need to track and that you need to worry about in your day-to-day operations. And what you'll find is that not only do you have, you have this key objective, but not all of your traffic coming to your website kind of does this key business objective, right, or converts at your goal. You'll have a small percentage of your site traffic that actually does end up converting. And historically, it's been about like 2.5 or 3% for the internet. So about 3% of your traffic will actually convert at that one goal that's really important for you. So that doesn't mean that all of the rest of your traffic that comes to your website is irrelevant or that it doesn't matter. There's a lot of value in that traffic. There's a lot of visitor activities that are really important to understand. And we actually call these micro-conversions. So if you think about your primary business objective as the macro conversion, right, selling a product or getting a lead or getting a donation, the other things that happen on your site are the micro-conversions. And micro-conversions are really important to measure. These help you understand what people are doing, how they're sharing your content, how they're building a relationship with you, how you're engaging them. And if you think about your website, you probably have lots of micro-conversions on your website, and you may not even be tracking them. I just looked at a couple of websites, and I came up with a list of a bunch of different micro-conversions that I would want to track if I had a website. And these kind of seem to be universal. I could see these types of micro-conversions on almost any website, whether it's an e-commerce website or a lead-generating type of website. So we have all these social media sharing options. I would look at those as micro-conversions. Video, right? People are using video on lots of different websites now to help explain products, to help explain services. So video is a great micro-conversion. Someone that watches a video, I definitely want to know about that because they're getting an impression of my brand, they're understanding my products, they're connecting with me in some way. Live chat. Live chat's another great micro-conversion. If someone doesn't buy from me but does engage in a live chat session, really, really important, right? I get that option to interact with them. It's almost like they're walking into my store and I can talk to them. Rather than just having them wander up and down the aisles and not see me. So all of these different actions, all of these different things that people can do on the site, while they're not a direct conversion, they're not that macro conversion that generates revenue right now for your business, they're activities that are important to track. So here's a page from the Google store. Google has a store. It sells all sorts of Google-branded merchandise. And right on this page, I actually found 4 things that I would track as a micro-conversion. So starting in the right corner, you can see a blue square just appeared, a newsletter sign-up. Newsletter sign-ups are really popular. All different types of businesses have them. Great micro-conversion. Why? Because someone's not converting now, but they are connecting with you. And so that you could send them a newsletter or some type of offer later on. Really important connection to make. Another type of micro-conversion I see here is that live chat button lower down in the column. Again, connecting with someone, being able to talk to them. They may not buy, but I want to see people using that because it increases the chances of them making a purchase. Below that, there's a survey. I would track that as a micro-conversion. And actually, at the bottom of the page, add to cart. I would see that as a micro-conversion as well, right? Because they didn't buy a product, but they did something very specific. They took an action that was necessary for them to end up making a purchase, right? Adding to the cart. So these types of things, these types of micro-conversions, they help us really understand the entire process of conversion. And you've probably all seen some type of funnel to represent the conversion process where at the top of the funnel you're attracting a new audience. Then when you get that new audience and they're on your website, you're engaging them. What's a great way to measure that engagement? Through all of these different micro-conversions. Ultimately, you want them to convert at a macro level, right, buy a product or whatever it is. And then, at the bottom, you want to retain them over time. So these micro conversions are really important to measure, along with your macro conversions, obviously, because while not everyone's going to convert on your site, it's going to give you a lot of insight and understanding to that 98% of people that are not buying a product or not generating a donation or submitting a lead form or whatever that macro conversion is. So that's kind of the first task for you guys, a little bit of homework that you might have, is to sit down, what are the macro conversions and what are the micro conversions on your site? Okay, so we've talked about your business objectives, the macro, the micro conversions. How do we actually measure these? And we use a feature in Google Analytics called goals to measure your conversions. We've actually done a webinar, I think it was a few months ago, that you can access. We'll include some information about that later, about how to set up goals, and it's very detailed, but let's just run through some of the very basic things that you would need to do. Obviously, first one, define your goals in terms of the website actions, right? Your macro and your micro conversions. You get 20 goals in Google Analytics, so there should be no shortage of things to track on your site. And to set up your goals, you go into the admin section, you click on that admin button in the top right corner, and you're going to be working at a profile level here, okay? And so you will click the Profiles tab on the far left there, and then below that you choose a profile that you want to work with, and you'll have the opportunity to create your goals. Like I said before, there's up to 20 goals. And the goals are put into what we call goal sets. It's just a way for us to organize them a little bit better in your reports. Okay, so we're going to talk about one type of goal, the most common type of goal. It's called a URL destination goal. And basically, it's used to measure when someone gets to a page. So this is a really useful type of goal for things like transactions, leads, newsletter or email signups. A URL destination goal is basically someone gets to a page on your website that indicates they've completed a macro or a micro conversion. So first thing to do, give your goal a name. Make it something that's really easy to understand in the reports because you'll literally see it in your reports. And then, like I said, these are the goal types. We're just going to go with URL destination goal today. There are other types of goals that measure something special called events, other goals that measure engagement based on how many pages people look at. But like I said, the URL destination goals are what a majority of your goals are going to be. Then you actually need to tell Google Analytics what is the special URL on your page. So if I'm going to track a thank you page from a form, right? If I'm generating leads from my website, someone fills out my lead form, they get a thank you page. I need to take that URL and I'm going to put it into this goal URL field. And what's going to happen is as Google Analytics processes my data, when it sees that URL in the data stream, it's going to be like, oh, someone saw the thank you page. I'm going to count a conversion. Okay, so that's how kind of our goals work here on the Google Analytics side. You tell GA what represents a special page on your website, and we count a conversion. And then finally, one other setting that I'll talk about real quickly is the goal value. And this is a really great setting because you get to give your conversions a monetary value. You get to tell Google Analytics how much a conversion is worth. Now, if you're a transactional website, if you're selling products, I would highly recommend using the e-commerce tracking. It takes a little work to implement, but you can actually track every transaction on your site. So the revenue from the transaction, the products purchased, the product categories, the product names, a really rich set of data. But if you're not transactional, then you can actually give each conversion a value. So you might do something like give each lead form submitted a value, right? You might say, all right, well, if I know that I get 100 leads and I close 10% of them, that's 10 leads, and the average value is a certain amount, you might put that valuation back in here for every lead form that you're getting, okay? And again, this is really recommended because in the Google Analytics reports, there are some reports that are actually monetary based. You'll be able to see revenue numbers. So if you're putting revenue numbers into analytics goals, then you'll see revenue in your reports. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the goal settings. Like I said, the URL destination goals are the most common ones, and we have a whole webinar that's dedicated just to setting up goals. So Make sure you've got your goals set up because that's how you literally translate your business objectives, the macro and micro conversions, into the settings within Google Analytics. And when we look at the reports, we'll see how you can evaluate your marketing campaigns based on the goals that you set up. So that's kind of one side of it, tracking your conversions. Now the other side, the other thing that's really important to do is make sure you're identifying where people are coming from when they visit your website. And to me, this is a two-step process. There are two things that you need to do here. And the first is to make sure that you've got Google Analytics and Google AdWords connected so that you can automatically see your AdWords traffic in Google Analytics. And by default, this should already be set up the right way, but let's just show you the two steps that you need to go through if you're not seeing your AdWords data in Analytics. The first thing and the most important thing is make sure you're an administrator on both the Google Analytics account and the Google AdWords account. So that means the login that you use to log into AdWords and Analytics is an administrator on both accounts. You need to be an admin. Next, if you check out if you check out Analytics, again, this is in the admin section. This is at the account settings level. You're going to actually see a data sources link at the top of your profile list here. And what you do is you click on this, and you'll be able to actually see the AdWords accounts that are linked to your Analytics account, right? We use your login as the way that we link these two things together. And you can choose to share your AdWords data with the profiles that you have in your Analytics account. And so normally you would probably just share your AdWords data with all of your profiles, but there might be a profile in there where you want to keep that AdWords data out, so you might exclude it from a certain profile. And if you're not familiar with Google AdWords, Google AdWords is another product that Google has. It's a way to advertise your business on Google Search in a number of other different ways. So if you go to google.com or whatever the particular Google variation is for your country that you're in and you do a search, you might see some little text ads at the top. And so those text ads are what we refer to as Google AdWords. And if you're paying for those ads, obviously we want to track them in Analytics. So this first step here is the way to get Analytics configured to identify them in AdWords. There's one other step in order to track them in Google Analytics, and this actually is in the AdWords side of things. So if you log into your Google AdWords account, there's a My Account tab at the top of the page. And in this section, you'll notice there's a tracking heading down there, about 2/3 down the page. And tracking for AdWords, the auto-tagging feature, basically when this is enabled and turned on, and you can see on the screen it says yes, auto-tagging yes, that means that the traffic coming from all of your ads is automatically identified by Google Analytics. Because Google owns Google AdWords and owns Google Analytics, we can automatically track the two if you let us. And so with this auto-tagging feature turned on, that means the systems work together and you're automatically able to see your traffic from AdWords in Analytics. Now, if that is not set to yes, just click on that little edit button and you'll be able to enable that and you'll automatically be able to see your AdWords traffic in Analytics. So again, Google AdWords, it's a way to advertise your business on Google. You want to be able to see the traffic coming from your ads in Google Analytics. It should be enabled automatically, but if it isn't, step one, make sure you're admin. Go into your Analytics account and check the data sources for your account. Step two, go into AdWords and make sure the auto-tagging is enabled. And as I mentioned, we've got a whole bunch of help resources that can help you troubleshoot some of the issues that you might have here, but this is an important step in making sure that you're seeing the right data in Analytics. Okay, so we've talked about identifying your business objectives, creating goals to track them. We talked about linking your AdWords and your Analytics accounts so you can see your AdWords traffic in Analytics. The last type of configuration thing that we're going to cover very quickly is measuring your marketing campaigns. So this is identifying people coming from your email marketing, people coming from display ads, people coming from any type of marketing that you might be doing. And this is really important because if Google Analytics can't identify where people are coming from, then it's going to be difficult for you to view the conversions, right, the goals that we set up based on where people come from. So that's why it's really important to make sure that you're identifying your different sources of website traffic correctly. So how do you track marketing campaigns? And you use this technology called link tagging. And simply put, link tagging is the process of adding marketing information to the URLs that are in your marketing materials. So if you think about an email, right, when you might do some email marketing, you might send your customers an email, and there might be links in that email. Link tagging is the process of changing those URLs, changing those links that are in your email so that they include special information that Google Analytics can identify. So that when someone clicks on one of those links, Google Analytics can actually identify that they came from an email. And that's really, really important. So what type of information can you track in Google Analytics using this link tagging? Well, there's 5 different pieces of information you can put in there. And we'll go through these kind of quickly. Like I said, we've got lots of materials that you can use to follow this up. The first thing that you can put into your links is a campaign name, and this is really useful, right? You might run multiple marketing campaigns during a given year. If you sell, children's clothing, you might be running a back-to-school campaign in the fall. You might run some type of holiday campaign at the end of the year. So you can actually name all of your campaigns so that they're easy to identify in Google Analytics. In addition to giving every campaign a name, you can specify what we call a medium. And the medium is analogous to the channel, or how you're pushing that message out to people. So using our example of email, if you're sending an email out, the channel would be email. You might be doing some display ads, and so the channel there might be the word display. So the medium is really great to track because it helps you learn about the different channels that you're engaged in and how they perform for your business, right? Is email better than display ads or CPC, cost per click advertising? Helps you understand which channels drive revenue and conversions. In addition to specifying a medium, you can also add in information about what we call the source. And the source is just another way to give more information about the channel or the medium. So let's use our email example. If you send a back-to-school email out to your potential customers, you might use a medium of email, but you might want to specify that it's the email that's going out to moms, right? Let's say you can segment your email list in your system based on mothers from fathers or whatnot. You could put into that, you can use the source in order to identify that you're sending this email to moms. Or if you're sending the email to a certain geographic area, people in the Northeast United States, people in Central America, people in Canada, you might use the source to identify that it's going to a certain group of people. It's a way for you to just add a little bit more information into Google Analytics. And all of this information is going to come back out through the reports to help you do analysis. So campaign, medium, and source, those in my eyes are the big 3. Those are the 3 that I always like to use because using those 3 I can get a lot of rich reporting in GA. There's a couple more. There's keyword. Obviously you can track keywords in Google Analytics. So if you're doing any paid search like on Bing or Yahoo, you can track those keywords. Remember, you don't need to do this process of link tagging for AdWords because you can link your accounts together, no pun intended there. But this link tagging process is really just for everything that's not AdWords. And the final thing that you can add into those links is something we call your content or your ad content parameter. And this is really fun because you can actually track different ad variations using this parameter. It adds, again, more information into the ad that you're putting out there for people to see. So again, using our awesome email example, if I'm sending an email for back to school, I might do different creatives. I might send one variation that has a shot of children's clothing. I might do another creative that has a shot of backpacks and other back-to-school type materials for kids. And I can actually identify those 2 using what we call this content tag and then measure the performance of the different variations of the email that I sent out. So these are 5 pieces of information that I can put into the URLs of my marketing campaigns and then identify them in Google Analytics. So how do you actually do that? Well, we have these things called query parameters. And don't get caught up in too many of these details. I just want to kind of give you the foundation here. But each of the different parameters that we talked about, campaign, medium, and source, they relate to a piece of a URL. And if you look at the bottom of this slide, you can see a URL. In the green part are these extra parameters that have been added to the URL in order to identify it to Google Analytics. So you can see like UTM underscore medium equals email. That means the medium for this link is email. This link would appear in email. And UTM underscore source equals newsletter. All right, so that tells me that this person wants to track this as the newsletter, not just any email, but the newsletter version of email. So the whole process of link tagging is putting these parameters into your URL, giving them a variable, giving them some type of value, and then putting that link into your email or whatever type of marketing that you're doing. Now, don't worry, we actually have a tool that you can use to do this. This is in our Help Center. There's a shortened link here that you can see at the bottom of the screen so that you can go and use this. But if you look at this form here, up top you have a field where you can put in your website URL. That's the page where you want the person to land. And then you have all of the other things that we just talked about, source, medium, campaign name. Literally, you type in the words that you want to appear in your Google Analytics reports. Type in the name of your campaign. Type in the medium. And when you click that Generate URL button at the bottom, Google Analytics, this form here, is going to spit out a URL that you then put into whatever marketing that you're doing, right? So if you're doing email marketing, you would put the URL into the email that you send out. If you're doing display ads, you would put it in as the destination URL in your display marketing. And so when someone clicks on that link, if it's an email, if it's in a display ad, and they land on your website, Google Analytics will actually be able to suck in all of that extra data that you've put in there, and you're going to get some really cool reporting around it. So just to give you some sense of what it'll look like, this is the traffic sources report, and you can see here in the highlight on the right-hand side, the name of that column is source/medium, okay? And so if you remember, we talked about a source. We talked about a medium. Those words in that report are literally going to be verbatim of what you put into your links, of how you tagged your URLs. If it's an email, if it's display ad, whatever it is. So you'll be able to see that data right here. And you can notice from this small screenshot, there's all different sorts of numbers associated with it. There's visits and bounce rate and all sorts of data that we're going to get into. So it's really, really important for you to go through and to tag all of the links that you're using, because if you don't tag them, then you're not going to be able to identify traffic coming from your different marketing campaigns. Now, one thing that I want to mention, a lot of these reports that we're going to look at, they don't only include your marketing campaigns, but they're going to include data from other sources as well, right? People can get to your website by typing in your URL. People can get to your website from doing an organic search on Google, meaning just searching and clicking on an organic result. People might click on a link on another website to visit your website, to visit your specific site. And so we actually call these direct traffic, referral traffic, and organic traffic. And these are things that Google Analytics will automatically identify for you. Direct traffic is people coming directly to your site. Referral traffic is people clicking on links on other sites. And organic traffic is people coming from organic search on Google, organic search on Yahoo, organic search on Bing, all the different search engines that are out there. Those are automatically identified. They're automatically given a source and a medium. You can see the values here. So obviously you don't have to worry about identifying those through this whole link tagging process. Google Analytics will do that for you. Okay. All right, we've covered a lot. Bear with me. We're about to look at some data here. We're going to pull this together and kind of tie together the setup that we just did to some of the data that we're going to look at. Right? So you've got your business objectives translated into goals and set up. You've linked AdWords and analytics. You're tagged your email, your display ads. You can even do your social media. You can tag the links that you put on Twitter or other places. Now let's look at some data, okay? Let's figure out how to measure these types of things and how to do analysis. And I think a lot of people kind of get, kind of a brain cramp when it comes to doing analysis. To me, analysis is pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to go to a certain report in analytics, like the campaign report, and you're going to look at the high-level data, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to drill into that data. We're going to do what's called segmentation in order to kind of look beneath that data and see the little parts of data that make up the big numbers on our site. We're going to gain some insights and learn something from that segmentation, and then we're going to do the whole thing over again. We're going to look at more data and do more segmentation. So we're going to kind of go through this process of drilling into the data, finding insights, and then drilling down again. Because the whole process of analysis, you're not going to look at your data and find one thing that's this silver bullet. You're not going to change one thing and quadruple your revenue or get 5 times more leads. The whole process of analysis is about segmenting, finding little things to change, and all those little things are going to add up. Now, we really like to start with the campaigns report in Google Analytics. This is in the traffic sources section, and the campaigns report is literally a list of all your campaigns. So this report contains all of your AdWords campaigns. It also contains all of the campaigns that you tagged. Remember, we did that whole link tagging process? And literally in this column, you'll see the names of your AdWords campaigns as defined in AdWords, and you'll also see all of the campaigns that you're tagged based on how you name those campaigns. So you'll be able to see some really basic metrics like the amount of traffic that you're getting from your campaigns, okay? And you might use some historical performance for context, right? So if you did a back-to-school campaign in 2011 and you got 50,000 visits in a week, maybe you're trying to get 75,000 this week, right? So you'll be able to, put some context to that data. The best way to understand all of these numbers is your historical performance and your expectations for your performance, right? I think businesses are always setting expectations, right? I'm going to make a certain amount of revenue in Q1 or in, this month. I expect a certain amount of traffic from these types of campaigns. That's the best way to think about the performance of these campaigns is, what is your expectation? So traffic is just one number. We have lots of other metrics in here. We have time on site. We have pages per visit. Those help you understand, are people spending time on your site from the different campaigns? And we have this really great metric called bounce rate. And if you haven't heard of bounce rate, we've been talking about bounce rate for a number of years. Bounce rate helps you identify what percentage of traffic comes from a campaign and leaves immediately after just viewing one page. So they come from a campaign, they land on a page, and they immediately leave. And we really like bounce rate because it's a diagnostic metric. It helps you understand that there's a problem in the entire purchase or conversion process. Usually people have to move beyond the landing page in order to do some micro conversion or macro conversion. And if they're leaving right away from the landing page, then they're not doing any of those other things. So we often look for campaigns that have a high bounce rate, and we try to figure out, well, why is that? The first question we ask is, should that campaign have a high bounce rate? There are some campaigns where you're maybe driving people to a page and you just want them to see that page and leave, and that might be okay to have a high bounce rate, but normally you want people to move deeper into the site. So I'd be looking for any campaign that has a high bounce rate, and that would kind of alarm me. I would try to figure out, all right, well, does the ad that I'm showing people in this campaign match back to the landing page that they're seeing? And if it doesn't, then I might want to make some type of change there. So bounce rate's a great diagnostic metric. Now, with visits and pages per visit and time and bounce rate, those are all really good metrics. They help me understand kind of that initial experience people have, how much traffic I'm getting, how engaged they are on the landing page. But I might want to look at, are they converting, right? Are they buying my product, or are they converting at any of the micro conversions? And so you'll notice in this same campaigns report above that graph, we have these links. It says goal set 1, goal set 2, goal set 3, and there's even a link for e-commerce if you're tracking transactions. And by clicking on these links, you'll actually change the data in the report. So instead of seeing visits and bounce rate, time on site, and pages per visit, now you're going to get conversion rate for all of the different goals that you set up, right? So you'll see what percentage of traffic coming from your campaigns are converting. And again, use the context of your business and the type of campaigns that you're running in order to evaluate how these things are doing. So if you're running a campaign that is really meant to drive conversions, right? You're sending an email blast out to your existing customers, and this email has an offer for 20% off. You're really trying to get them to buy some product here. I would look to that to have a rather high conversion rate. What's a high conversion rate? Think about how this campaign performed historically. If you don't have any historical data, what do you usually expect from some types of campaigns, maybe in the offline world, right? So try to use some of your own business knowledge as context around these conversion rates when you're evaluating the performance, okay? So when you're looking at this data, right, we're looking at conversion rate, bounce rate. You're getting kind of a sense of how are things performing. Well, a lot of times what we want to do is we want to drill down into these campaigns. We want to do what's called the segmentation of the data in order to understand how the pieces within these campaigns are performing. And when I say pieces, I'm talking about all the different marketing activities that you might be doing inside of a campaign. Right? A campaign might be composed of some email marketing. Maybe you're doing a couple display ads. So we want to drill into those campaigns and look at the smaller pieces. So you can actually click on these campaign names right here in this report, and you'll actually drill down and view the different mediums that you might be working in, or the different sources that are parts of that campaign, right? So we're doing some segmentation. So you'll be able to see what are the different components of my campaign and how are they performing. Again, a lot of times you're not going to find like this one silver bullet where there's one thing that's performing really poorly. You might find a lot of little things. So for an example, if you send out an email blast and you decide to send out 2 or 3 different variations of the email, you might find that there's a couple of variations that are performing poorly and maybe 1 or 2 that are performing well. So you can start to maybe promote the ones that are performing well and tweak the ones that are performing poorly. The whole idea here is as you click on this data, you're literally kind of physically exploring it. You're still going to get the same metrics, visits, bounce rate, time, pages per visit. You'll still be able to use the conversions tab. You're just going to be viewing something different in this column here. So rather than viewing the campaign name, you'll be viewing kind of that next layer that's deeper than that. Okay? And I should also mention, as you start to get more advanced, that we're going to be able to segment data by lots and lots of different things. You can segment your data geographically, right? So if you want to view traffic from certain cities or states, if your campaigns are geolocated, or if your business is in a certain area, you'll be able to do segmentation other ways based on other dimensions of data, like geography. So wanted to give you guys a quick little hint here. So a little tool that we have built in to Google Analytics called Weighted Sort. That's a really neat way to help kind of do some automatic analysis, right? So I mentioned looking at your campaigns and maybe trying to identify the ones that have high bounce rates and looking at those as a problem. Well, in Google Analytics, you can sort your columns, right? So here we have the bounce rate column. I can click on that column header and sort it by bounce rate. So if I wanted to analyze the bounce rate of my campaigns, I could sort by bounce rate. The problem is I'm going to see all my campaigns that have 100% bounce rate at the top, and that's not really useful because those may only have 1 or 2 visits. So what I can do is sort based on bounce rate, and then at the top of the table here, there's this sort type drop down. Okay? And if I click on this, I can choose what we call weighted sort. And weighted sort basically is an algorithm that Google Analytics will apply to your data. And it will rank the campaigns based on the bounce rate and the amount of traffic they're getting. So you'll get a list of your campaigns that Google Analytics thinks are really important for you to optimize. So it's not only based on just the bounce rate or just the visits, it's based on a combination of the 2 of those things. So now you'll see something that may not have the highest bounce rate, but it'll have a bounce rate that is, Google Analytics deems important for you to look at. Okay, so here we have the slide here that shows the bounce rates sorted by kind of importance based on that weighted sort that we're using. So try using weighted sort. It's a great way to discover the important things that should be get some attention from you from an optimization perspective. Okay, so that's a little bit about how I would go about analyzing campaigns. I would start at the campaign level. I would look at what is the bounce rate. I would compare it to what my expectations are. I would look at conversions from the different types of campaigns. I want to take a quick second and talk about AdWords, because there's some stuff that we can do in AdWords that's actually a little bit different because we can link AdWords and analytics together, you can actually do a different type of analysis. And looking at your AdWords reports, this is the campaigns report in AdWords, you'll notice across the top of that graph there's a little clicks link that you normally don't have in some of the other reports. It wasn't there in our traffic sources report that we looked at previously. This link actually allows you to view some data from AdWords within analytics. And this is information about how much money you spend on AdWords, the number of clicks that you're getting. And the reason why I like this view of the data is it brings in some financial information. So not only can you see, visits and bounce rate, but you can see how much money you're spending on AdWords and then how much money you're making on your website. So if you're using e-commerce tracking, you can collect the value of the transactions. And obviously, when you can see what you're making on your website in terms of revenue and what you're spending in terms of AdWords, you can understand, are you getting a positive return on that AdWords investment? So here I have an AdWords campaign that's making less revenue than I'm spending. So I have a negative, what we call, return on that investment. And so I might want to investigate, why is that happening? I might want to segment that data. And I can do that in AdWords just like I can do in the other types of reports by clicking on the AdWords campaigns. And I will actually be able to drill down into the AdWords campaigns and view the AdWords groups, the ad groups, and the keywords down in there below that. So it's that whole process of segmentation. I can view maybe which ad groups are not generating a positive return, which keywords are not generating a positive return. And again, I want to make small changes to those things. Maybe I want to stop bidding on a certain keyword, or maybe I want to refine it a little bit in order to improve the return. And by making those smaller changes at the ad group level, at the keyword level, all of those small changes will add up and ultimately lead to bigger changes on my website. Okay, so we've talked about the segmentation. We talked about how you can do that in AdWords and how you can do it in your traffic sources reports. I kind of want to maybe take you guys in terms of advancing you a little bit into a more complicated topic, something that we're starting to do more and more, and help you understand how different types of campaigns can be valued in different ways, right? A lot of what we've looked at is understanding how a campaign is performing from what we call a last click perspective. So campaigns driving traffic to your site and immediately generating some type of macro or micro conversion. Now, just because something did not convert or did not generate revenue, it doesn't mean that it's worthless, right? A campaign that has a very low conversion rate, it doesn't mean that that campaign is worthless. It might add value in a different way. And Google Analytics is trying to help you understand this other type of value using a new series of reports that we call multi-channel funnels. And this is in the conversion sections of Google Analytics. And I want to call your attention to one specific report called the Assisted Conversions Report. And I really, really like this report. I think it's fantastic because it shows you a couple of things. First, it shows you a new metric called the Assisted Conversions metric and the assisted value. This metric helps you understand how different marketing campaigns and different channels helped conversion. And it's not direct conversion, it's assisted conversion. An assisted conversion, an assist happens when a campaign or a marketing channel drives someone to your website, but they don't convert today. But they might come back tomorrow, the next day, or the next week and convert later. So just because someone didn't convert now, it doesn't mean that that marketing campaign or that channel was useless. It actually did some good. It introduced a customer to you early in the buying process, okay? So the Assisted Conversion Report breaks down your traffic by different marketing channel, and it shows you the number of assists that each of those channels has. It also shows you what we call direct conversions, right? And that means the actual number of direct conversions from each of those channels. So someone came from a specific channel like email or display ads or directly to your website, and it shows you the number of people that converted directly from those channels. So it's giving you two things here. It's giving you how a channel performs in terms of driving direct conversions and how a channel performs in driving assisted conversions. And that's really important to understand because some channels may be really good at assisting and other channels might be really good at driving direct conversions. And that changes how you actually look at the data, right, and how you actually use those different channels. So if you find that social media is really, really good at assisting conversions, you might use those channels to spread your brand message or to help people understand your products a little bit. If you find a certain channel is really good at driving direct conversions, you might put more specific offers in those different channels. So this is really great because now you can analyze all of the different macro and micro conversions on your website and understand the different traffic channels and how they drive those different conversions. And this is kind of where we're going in analytics. We're moving away from a one-visit, one-conversion-centric view into a multi-visit, multi-channel view of our data. And it's really fantastic, right? Because now we can put value on different marketing channels that in the past we may not have been able to value. So let's maybe kind of sum up here and talk about some key takeaways. First of all, make sure you're identifying your business objectives and you're tracking micro and macro conversions. Make sure you're tracking all your marketing activities with your campaign tracking, and make sure you have AdWords and analytics linked. Auto-tagging in analytics is highly recommended. Makes it easy to track your AdWords. And finally, analyze your traffic. Look for stuff that has a high bounce rate. That's probably a good indicator that there's a problem maybe with the landing page of that campaign. Look at your different campaigns and understand the conversions that you're getting from those campaigns. If you're not getting a lot of conversions, switch over and use the multi-channel funnel reports to see if you're getting a lot of assists. Because just because something's not converting it now, it doesn't mean it's not helping out conversions later on.
Great. So at this point, I just want to ask everyone to kind of look in your consoles for the red button in the bottom right-hand side. That's for surveys. So we'd love to get your feedback in terms of if this is helpful or not, things that we can do to improve our webinars going forward. We actually received quite a few questions during the webinar, so we won't be able to answer all of them during the Q&A session, but please check back on our Google Analytics blog where we will do a wrap-up of the key takeaways and answer some of the questions we weren't able to get to. In terms of on the next slide, there's actually a list of GA resources that may be helpful for you. This is our Google Analytics blog, the Help Center, as well as our YouTube channel where we will be posting the recording of this webinar. So in case you missed any parts of it, you can get all of it there. And then also wanted to call out there are additional help resources on the next slide, which covers the Google Analytics certified partners. These are actual consultants from outside of Google, but what they do is they help with everything from the basic GA account setup to actually doing some advanced analysis of your account and helping you make some good business decisions. We also have the GA Premium, which is an enterprise-level solution, which is great for the large enterprises or companies that really are looking for support and service-level agreements on their Google Analytics account.